Hello, my name is Duncan and welcome to Bath Books, or Back Away from the Donkey. Today I'm going to be talking about the really prolific pulp writer Frank Gruber. I'm at the moment in the middle of doing my Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, my Philip K. Dick on film project video, and that's taken me a lot longer than I expected, so I just wanted to get something this quick out for today. So I'm going to be talking about Frank Gruber, and he's a writer, he's a very interesting writer, because he was one of the big pulp writers of the sort of the 30s to 40s and 50s, and I'm actually surprised that somebody like Michael K. Vaughan hasn't mentioned him, because he was very big in the Western genre. So this is from his memoir, which was published in 1968, called The Pulp Jungle. It's very difficult to get hold of. It's totally out of print. I managed to find a copy on archive.org, which I can always put a link down below for anybody who's interested. I first came across Frank Gruber. I was on holiday with my parents, and the place where we were staying had a stack of books to read. And in that stack of books was a book called Broken Lance by Frank Gruber. I wasn't really a fan of Westerns, but it was like the only thing there to read, and I read it. And I said, I've never been a big fan of the genre, but that book has stuck with me over the years. And I've looked around since then for a copy of the book, and I've not really found one. So if anybody finds one, I would like to reread it. But I did some reading around him, and he was an incredible writer. He used to publish in all the magazines, like from everything from Weird Tales to Detective Fiction to Black Mask. He wrote loads of screenplays, and as a lot of the writers at that time, he went where the money was. He wrote for the money, and he wrote quickly, and he wrote to order. And this memoir was written in 1968. As I said, it's quite hard to get hold of. If you're really interested in like the workings of writers, especially that period, it is quite an interesting read. Though I will say one thing is you can read his ego in it, and I think to actually work in that period of time, you needed to have an ego. That was the only way. You need to have confidence in your own abilities. As well as stories for magazines, he wrote over 400. He also wrote novels, about 50, including, I said, the aforementioned Broken Lance, screenplays for TV and film, I think about 150 to 200. Broken Lance, that I mentioned earlier, that was also adapted to a film called Warpath, which I've never seen, which I need to dig out. So he was just an all-round writer. The book just follows his career from where he started to how he saved money to how he wrote. For those who have got an interest in publishing, it is a really interesting read, and it was also shows how to survive and how he was willing to do anything to get through. And there's like some telling bits about how in the Depression that he used tomato ketchup sauce, to us British people, tomato sauce, little condiments of those mixed with hot water to make tomato soup just to survive. Initially, when reading this memoir, you think it almost feels like he's just reading off how much he got paid for each story, how much he got paid per word, and how much he got paid for each story, and his willingness to write for stuff. And it can get a little bit repetitive. For a writer, I think this book really needed a good editor. It really did. But some of the anecdotes and things are quite interesting. There's one about how he put together a story, and I'll quickly read that to you. It was Friday afternoon. They were going to press next day, Saturday, and needed a 5,500 word story to fill the issue of Operator Number 5. Could I write 5,500 word story overnight? I could, I solemnly assured Rogers. I sat down at the typewriter. By 12 o'clock, I needed a plot. At 2 a.m., I had Captain John Vedders of Military Intelligence and the beauticious Leon Montez, the Panamanian spy. All I needed was a plot. At 3:30, the entire United States Atlantic Fleet was about to be attacked by a fleet of bombers originating in a country in Europe. All Captain John Vedders had to do now was find the beautiful Leon Montez and get the stolen plans from her. Unfortunately, however, the dusty villain had mistrusted Leone Montez. He had abducted her, along with the plans, taken her to the hideout in the Catskills, where he would hold her until he radioed his people in Europe. As a memoir, I wanted to actually sort of more of those sort of stories, because that's the sort of thing that really interests me. What does come across in this memoir is more of the arrogance, which can get a wee bit annoying, but I think that is part of the drive that made him such a big and prolific writer of the time. He also seemed to have a disdain for editors, and that comes across in the book. In one statement he said, "I do not believe that one single editor has ever contributed anything to the craft or skill of any single writer at any time. that sort of statement is quite ironic in my opinion, because what this memoir does need is a really, really good editor. And that's what is missing from it. But yes, he didn't believe much in editors at all. And also his opinion on science fiction was interesting, because he used to, he never wrote any. And me as a big science fiction fan, but he used to call it pseudo-science fiction, because he didn't like it. And there's quite an interesting thing about L. Ron Hubbard, which I found quite entertaining. If you've got interest in the subject matter in, all the pulp stories written at the time, especially westerns and detective fiction, it's quite an interesting read. I said it's not the, surprisingly, it's not the best written memoir. I said you can pick up a copy where I put the link down below. Also, if you're quite interested in sort of the mechanics of how writing used to work, that's also quite an interesting point of view. But he still was, said an incredibly prolific writer, and I still would love to get hold of a copy of Broken Lance and any of his other stories I can find. But I must also find a copy of the film Warpath, which was of Broken Lance, just to see what that's like. So I hope you found that interesting, and I will speak to you all very soon.